Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes are sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. Not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade, sipping motions and lemonade. Cool heads will prevail, kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. There's a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Stack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Machegas. Ridiculousness that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proset, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Hello, my friends. Hello. Happy Sunday Fun Day. Thanks so much for coming to spend part of your Sunday with me. Today is Sunday, November 10th, 2024. And it is also the 249th birthday of the U.S. Marine Corps. So I think it's only fitting today that we continue our recap of the Daniel Penny trial that is taking place in Lower Manhattan. Daniel Penny is charged with manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide in the death of a homeless, mentally ill man who was on drugs on an uptown F train all the way back on May 1st of 2023. Daniel Penny is a Marine, and the Marines were founded on November 10th of 1775. During the Revolutionary War, when Captain Samuel and Nicholas set up the first Marine Corps recruiting headquarters at Tun Tavern in Philadelphia, looking for a few good men. So happy birthday to the Marines. Semper Fi, once a Marine, always a Marine. My father's a Marine. Marines specialize in land, sea, and air operations, known to be the first in and the last out. And unless you live in New York City or you watch mainstream media, you might not even know that this trial is going on under the direction of District Attorney Alvin Bragg in Manhattan. In fact, YouTube doesn't even really like that I'm covering this story, because the last video that I did for the first 2 days of trial of Daniel Penny was totally shadow banned. It was demonetized. And I don't curse. I don't use any language. There was some video in there, but it was blurred out. But I'm not going to quit talking about it, because I think everybody needs to know about it. I'm not going to stop talking about the tough topics just because YouTube doesn't want me to. And the reason that I can do that is because I have an amazing sponsor. I think last week I got in the mail, 2 letters from companies that I had done business with at some point in my life, who told me that there were data breaches and that now all of my private information had been stolen, including my social security number, my date of birth, my medical records. In one case, it was a health insurance company. And if you've ever had your identity stolen, you have no idea what that can do to your credit. It can take years to undo. We're going to watch a quick word from my sponsor, because my sponsor, Aura, is the reason that I am able to bring you this video today on Daniel Penny. So let's listen to a quick word from the sponsor, and then we're going to get right on into it. Today's video is sponsored by Aura, and it's a really important time to be talking about them, because hackers may have stolen the social security numbers of every American. Over 2.9 billion records were stolen from national public data, which offers personal information to employers, private investigators, staffing agencies, and others doing background checks. These stolen records include a person's full name, address, date of birth, social security number, and phone number, along with alternate names and birth date. And members of this hacker group have reportedly released this information on the dark web for free. I don't know if you've ever had your identity stolen, but I've had clients who've had their identity stolen. And not only is it a major hassle, but oftentimes before you find out, it's too late. The damage can take years to undo, and it's a hassle that you definitely do not want to deal with. So if you haven't been taking precautions before with your personal information online, this should be a huge wake-up call. You've never been more vulnerable online than you are right now. But I'm not too worried about it because I use Aura. Aura alerts me if they find my phone number, my email, my social security number, or any other personal information on the dark web. They're going to let me know fast if anyone tries to use this information to access my credit or bank accounts, to give me up to $5 million in identity theft insurance should the worst case scenario happen. They also provide a bunch of other features to keep you safe online, all inside one app. And you can go to my link at www.aura.com/MelanieLittle to try it for free for 14 days. That'll be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal information or data has been exposed. I highly recommend you do this right now, because not only is national public data not going to do anything to help you, they probably aren't even going to face any repercussions for this breach. I'm not leaving myself and my family vulnerable to data breaches. And if you don't want to either, you want to go to my link, www.aura.com/MelanieLittle, to try 2 weeks for free. You can thank me later. You can thank me later. Actually, one of my viewers sent me a message and said, thank you so much because Aura saved my credit. So take it for what it's worth. 2-week free trial can't hurt, right? Hi, Sarah in Shock and Horror. Thank you so much for coming in today to moderate. Appreciate you so very much. Kelly Reel says, happy Marine Corps birthday to my Marine friend, Semper Fi. Semper Fi. Today, we saw 2 more days of testimony in the Daniel Penny trial. So we're going to talk about the testimony. We're going to talk about the witnesses who testified. We're going to take a look at the law, and we're going to see what he's charged with and what New York State, the elements of those crimes are. And then we're going to take a look at the juror breakdown of who's on the jury and who's hearing this case. And I also want to compare this with another case that has a very similar fact pattern that happened in Brooklyn. There was another man who stabbed somebody on the subway and killed him, and his charges were dropped in Brooklyn. And coincidentally, his charges were dropped the same day that Daniel Penny was arraigned in Manhattan. The trial is supposed to last 4 to 6 weeks. The first 2 weeks were jury selection, so I think technically we're in week 3. So could be at least 1 or 2 more weeks. I'm going to try and get down there next week. There's no court tomorrow because it's Veterans Day. The Delphi trial is still going. They're deliberating again tomorrow. And that's happening. So after this stream is over, I'm going to teleport you over. For those of you who want to watch an update on the Delphi trial, Andrea Burkhart is going to be on another show. And I'm going to teleport you over there after this one so that you guys don't miss that. It's wild. The jury's been out for quite some time. I had a feeling they were going to be out for a long time, but I don't know what's going to happen over there. That's another crazy trial that people should be following. If they're not, it's also very secretive. Huge shout out to my Colorado Buffs who kicked some Texas Tech butt yesterday with a final score of 41-27. And I can't wait for the national rankings to come out this week, because last week we were ranked at number 21. So Sco Buffs, Deion Sanders, as he said in the beginning, when he first took over as coach for Colorado, he said, we coming. And now it's like, we here. 2 of his sons are on the team. So it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. And I love to see it. And what a great game that was yesterday. If anybody watched it, yay, Sco Buffs. Thanks, Kirsten. I know you're a Coloradan. So yeah, we love our team. We love our college football. And I'm here for every minute of it. And that game was in Texas yesterday. All right, so moving on. Monique's husband is her hero, and his birthday is on Veterans Day. Yes, so happy Veterans Day to all of the veterans out there in my subscribership and viewership. And as always, thank you for your service. This great nation would not be what it is without your service. So let's break it down. Day 3 of testimony was on Thursday, and heard from a couple of witnesses who were on the train. Who were on the train as passengers that Daniel Penny was also on. And the first witness who testified on Thursday was an 18-year-old girl from Harlem who was taking the train home from school when this whole thing happened. Her name is Moriela Sanchez. And she testified that Jordan Neely, the 30-year-old homeless man that I told you about at the beginning of the stream, came onto the train, threw his jacket down, and squared up, she said. She said that Jordan said, if no one gives me food or water, I'm going to start putting hands on people. He was going to start attacking, is what she testified to. She added that he was shouting at everyone on the train car, not any specific rider. And she said, despite his aggression, he didn't touch anybody. After that, Penny started putting his hands around his neck. And after that, he dropped him down so he was closed off from attacking people, she testified. Penny dropped down on his back and Jordan was on top of him. She said that she believed that Penny was doing it to stop Neely from attacking people. She got off at the next stop and she called 911. She said Penny still had Neely in a chokehold at that time. She noted that a second man, whom she described as a black male wearing a hat, helped Penny hold Neely down during the encounter. And then under cross-examination, she said yes when she was asked if she felt a great sense of relief after Penny placed Neely in a headlock. But she went on to contradict her own grand jury testimony when she said that it looked like Penny was squeezing Neely's neck. She said when she testified on Thursday that it did look like he was squeezing Neely's neck. But at the grand jury, she said it didn't look like that. Her previous so she was impeached then with her previous grand jury testimony in court. And Danny Penny's attorney asked her, did it look like the white man was squeezing the black man's neck? And then at the grand jury, she testified, no, he was holding him down so he wouldn't attack nobody, she said. So that was witness number 1 on Thursday. Witness number 2 was a woman named Kadrin Shrunk. She is a Nike senior brand manager who lives in Brooklyn, and she was on her way to meet a friend for coffee on the day she was on that fateful subway car. I found this very interesting. She testified that Neely was shouting in the middle of the train, making threatening gestures, and she testified that Neely smelled like soiled sweatpants. And she feared he might have a gun or a knife, although she didn't see one. What I find interesting about that testimony is that on one of the first 2 days of testimony, we watched some body cam footage that came in at the trial. And one of the witnesses was heard saying in the body cam, he just defecated on himself. He just soiled himself. He's going to die. My wife is a veteran. I know these things. And yet this woman is testifying that he came on the train smelling that way. So I think that's going to be important testimony because as we know from watching the prior body cam footage, Neely was alive when the first responders got there. They felt a pulse. They administered Narcan. You don't give Narcan to a dead person because it's not going to bring a dead person back to life. So here's the thing. A properly executed sleeper hold will take somebody down or have them pass out within something like 6 to 10 seconds. So one of the questions is going to be here, was he, Daniel Penny, a trained Marine, consistently applying pressure the entire time of that video, or was he just restraining him? Just because he had his hand around his neck doesn't mean that he was applying pressure. So I think that we're going to It's up to the jury to decide based on all of this testimony, but we'll see what they're going to say. Kadrin Shrunk also testified with regard to the soiled sweatpants. She said that it was a scent that took over the subway. It was like physically soiled sweatpants, she said. Mr. Neely may not have been showering appropriately. It was a very strong odor, and his sweatpants were definitely soiled. She couldn't remember exactly what Neely was saying, but she testified that he was making life-threatening statements. This was the first time in my life that I took a moment because I was scared that I was going to die in that moment, she testified. She also said that Penny intervened at the highest level of the outburst, and that she said that Penny's arm was across Neely's chest, and that two other men helped him hold Neely down. She also testified that when she saw Neely walking toward her, he was absolutely screaming and gesturing with his hands. She said she rides the subway every day, and sometimes she moves to another part of the train or gets off at the next stop when she feels uncomfortable. But in this case, she said the doors were closed, it was hot, and no one was moving. I've never seen a human in that state, she said. I truly believed I was going to die in that moment. When Penny's defense attorney, Thomas Kenneth, asked Shrunk if she remembered Neely threatening to kill, she said yes. Next to testify is a witness who contradicts the others, and he is, his name is Johnny Grima, Grima. He's a 40-year-old resident of the Bronx who is unemployed but spends time working with the homeless. He served 13 months behind bars for bashing someone over the head with a baseball bat, but he claimed on the witness stand that he didn't do it. This witness testified that he didn't see the start of the altercation, but he arrived after the train stopped, and he watched Penny let go of Neely, who was limp at the time. Grima testified that he said out loud that they shouldn't leave Neely on his back while he was unconscious. He should be on his side so he wouldn't choke. We watched that body cam footage the other day as well, and we heard him saying that, roll him over so he doesn't choke on his vomit. This is conflicting. The problem is there's no cameras in the courtroom. There's no audio being released of the testimony. And so I have to cobble together from a bunch of different news sources to try and tell you the testimony. So this is conflicting. This ABC says, or this is actually Fox News says, that this witness, Grima, poured water on Neely's head. But there's another account of this witness's testimony who says that he tried to pour water on his head and Penny said, don't do that. So I can't speak to the truth or veracity of that. He said that it says here, Grima explained that he intervened to say that Neely should be put on his side before pouring water on his head in an attempt to wake him up. Daniel Penny came and told me to stop when I did that. So maybe he actually did do it, but Daniel Penny said, stop doing that. Johnny Grima, it says in one account, is a former homeless person who is now a homeless activist. And he said he wished he'd intervened to save Neely and repeatedly referred to Penny as a murderer. This would result later that day in a request for a mistrial by the defense, which was denied. After lunch on day 3, the trial resumed with testimony from the 14th witness for the prosecution, who was an NYPD 911 technician or operator. Her name is Paula Williams, and she testified about how the NYPD archives and organizes 911 calls and described the first 4 calls that came in on the day of Neely's death. Then the first of those calls was played for the jury, although it was partly muffled. Quote, someone started acting crazy on the train, talking about how he's ready to go to jail. He's going to hurt someone. So someone took him down with a chokehold, the caller said on that 911 call. Dispatcher replied, is there a weapon? Ma'am, no, but this guy's got him in a restraint, the caller said. So that was the first 911 call. The 15th witness of the trial is an NYPD officer named Asatu Cesay, C-E-S-A-Y, who responded to the scene, and he took the stand in uniform. That's interesting. Unlike the Karen Reed trial, where none of the witnesses were allowed to appear in uniform, this witness appeared in uniform. She said that by the time that she arrived, Neely was unconscious and did not appear to be breathing. He did not have a pulse when she checked sometime later. She said she asked Penny, did you see what happened? And then she testified that Penny said, yeah, the guy came on the train throwing shit and saying he was ready to die and go to jail for life. I put him in a chokehold and took him to the ground. I had him pretty good. And then prosecutors played her body cam footage in court, which showed a similar conversation. Under cross-examination, she did testify that the other officers, and there were at least 3 or 4 of them because we watched that body cam footage in the last video, which I've linked below for your convenience. At least 3 or 4 other officers who first responded found a pulse and said he was breathing. So under cross-examination, she testified that other officers found a pulse before she checked herself and there wasn't one. It's important to point out here that Neely has a pretty long rap sheet. I think he's got something like 40 priors, including a prior charge for assaulting a 67-year-old New York City woman in 2021. He's got a history of mental illness. There was synthetic cannabinoids found in his system that hasn't come out yet, but it will come out when the medical examiner testifies, including K2, which I think is also known as spice. Is that the same thing? K2 and spice, you guys know? Which may or may not be the cause of his death, which may or may not have caused his erratic behavior. I can't wait to hear the medical examiner testify. Moving on, I think those are the witnesses for day 3. Now we're moving on to day 4. And for day 4, we have some new video to look at. And this woman, her name is Alethea Giddings. She was the first of 2 witnesses to testify on day 4 that they were very grateful that Daniel Penny, I keep confusing them, that Daniel Penny was on their subway train that day, and that they were very afraid of Jordan Neely. Alethea Giddings testified She's been riding the subway for over 50 years, and she's been threatened before, but this was the first time she was actually scared. She described Neely as resisting when Penny put Neely in a chokehold to restrain him. And she also said that she went to thank Penny afterwards. Let's take a look at the video of her statements. Okay, let me just pull this up for you. And this is body cam footage from May 1st, 2023, 2:34 p.m.
Very, very. The whole train was freaked out. He was either gonna like pull a gun, a knife, or like.
Said, "I'm willing to die. I'm willing to die. You know, I'm willing to get killed."
Let me get a name and a phone number.
Known as the level one of Central. Camera for all my units.
The guy in the tan did take him down like very respectfully and just like held him down. He wasn't like, "You're just okay."
I don't know if you can hear that, but the witness to the left on your screen that you can't see, who's out of frame, says he took him down very respectfully. And she says he didn't choke him or anything. We're going to listen to this again. I'm going to let it play through once, and then I'm going to stop and talk about it.
I think that the guy is totally broke down.
This young lady's right here.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you see?
What did I see? I was sitting over there. I heard the young man that's on the floor saying, you know, "Hey, I'm willing to die. You know, I'll do anything. I'm willing to die. I'll go to jail. I don't care. I don't care." And he was saying it so loud that everybody turned around.
Ladies and
So
gentlemen,
this young
this
man,
train is going to be held here for a long period of time. You'll find
Been belligerent on that.
Okay. So the question that the officer asks is, this is starting over, was he belligerent in any way?
Been belligerent on that.
very, very.
Very, very is the answer.
The whole train was freaked out. He was either gonna like pull a gun, a
The whole train was freaked out. He was either going to like pull a gun
knife, or like.
Said, "I'm willing to die.
or a knife, says the woman on the left.
I'm willing to die. You know, I'm willing to get killed."
Let me get a name and a phone number.
I'm willing to die. I'm willing to get killed. The woman on the right says that's Alethea Gibbon. Alethea. I think I said her name was Gibbons.
known as the level one of Central. Camera for all my units.
The guy in the tan did take him down like very respectfully and just like held him down. He wasn't like, "You're just okay."
He did take him down very respectfully and just held him down.
Yeah. I think that the guy.
He didn't want to kill him, she says.
The guy in the tan did take him down like very respectfully and just like held him down. He wasn't like, "You're just okay."
He wasn't trying to choke him or kill him, is what she said.
I think that the guy is totally broke down.
This young lady's right here.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you see?
What did I see? I was sitting over there. I heard the young man that's on the floor saying, you know, "Hey, I'm willing."
I was sitting over there. He said, "What'd you see?" I was sitting over there. I heard the young man who was on the floor saying,
To die, you know, I'll do anything. I'm willing to die. I'll go to jail. I don't
"I'm willing to die. I'll do anything. I'll go to jail. I don't care."
care. I don't care. And he was saying it so loud that everybody turned around.
And he was saying it so loud that everybody turned around.
This young man,
This train is going to be held here for a long period of time. You'll find
Been belligerent on that.
Okay. And that's that first video. I also have a second video for you. Same witness.
This young lady's right here.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you see?
what did I see? I was sitting over there. I heard the young man that's on the floor saying, hey, I'm willing to die. I'll do anything. I'm willing to die. I'll go to jail. I don't care. I don't care. And he was saying it so loud that everyone turned around. So this young man, he got belligerent and he tackled him down. The one that just passed away in the brown jacket, the one that just went past.
She was pointing out Daniel Penny, who was wearing the tan jacket, as you may remember from the videos we watched the other day. So that witness's name was Alethea Giddings. And she also said she went to thank Penny after. The next witness was another woman on the train with her 5-year-old son. Her name is Lori Citro. And her testimony, she told the jury, I've taken the subway for over 30 years and I've seen a lot of unstable people, and this felt different to me. She demonstrated for the jury how she saw Neely lunging at people. The witness said, when Penny took Neely to the ground, I felt very relieved because I was scared for my son. She called Neely very erratic and unpredictable. She also said, my son started asking me questions. Why did he want to go to prison? And she also said, I actually took the stroller that I had and put it in front of me, or put it in front of my son to create a barrier. There's no video of the behavior of Jordan Neely before the takedown. So the jury's not going to see any of that because it doesn't exist. But this video of, Jordan Neely having a pulse when first responders got there was never shown to the public. Public didn't see that. You know who had that? District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Do you think he showed that to the grand jury? I would love to know. I would love to know. I bet he didn't. After the jury was dismissed on Thursday, that was the day that former homeless person, Grima, testified and called him a murderer multiple times. They made a motion for a mistrial. The motion was denied. The judge said that, it may have been a little prejudicial, but, not so much as to cause a mistrial. Let's go to the chat for a minute, and that's where we stand kind of after days 3 and 4 of testimony. Off topic, Andrea Collins spent the day power washing yesterday, and now she can't move. That power washer is hard work. I thought it was going to be easy one day when I tried to man that power washer too, and it was pretty hard work for me. I'm just saying. I thought so. Let's take a look at the statutes, the New York statutes that are going to apply to this case. Because here's what Daniel Penny is charged with. Manslaughter in the second degree. Which carries up to 15 years. I'm going to pull that up for you. Because that's what we do here. We're a legally based channel. We look at statutes and things and stuff. Manslaughter in the second degree. A person is guilty of manslaughter in the second degree when he recklessly causes the death of another person, or he intentionally causes or aids another person to commit suicide. Manslaughter in the second degree is a class C felony. I don't know why this says number 1 and then number 3. There's no number 2. So the jury's going to need to decide whether he was reckless. I think he might have to testify. I think he might have to testify. He didn't testify in front of the grand jury, but I think he might have to testify because I don't think anyone can testify about how much pressure he was holding Jordan Neely with around his neck or the carotid, except for Daniel Penny. He may have just been restraining him. Just because he had his hand around his neck doesn't mean he was choking him the entire time. And if it was reasonable force under the circumstances and the jury finds that, they can acquit him. Let's take a look at the second statute that he is charged with. And this is manslaughter in the second. Is that what we just looked at? Manslaughter? Yeah. All right. So that's the same one. Hang on. Criminally negligent homicide. Person is guilty of criminally negligent homicide when, with criminal negligence, he causes the death of another person. Criminally negligent homicide is a class E felony, and that carries a penalty of up to 4 years. Now let's take a look at the law of self-defense in New York. We'll look at the actual statute. Justification, use of physical force in defense of a person. And you can also use physical force in defense of another person. Penal Code Section 35.15 is called justification, use of physical force in defense of a person. A person may, subject to the provisions of subdivision 2, use physical force upon another person when and to the extent he or she reasonably believes such to be necessary to defend himself, herself, or a third person from what he or she reasonably believes to be the use or imminent use of unlawful physical force by such other person, unless the latter's conduct was provoked by the actor with intent to cause physical injury to another person. And I don't think that that's the case here. I don't think they're going to be able to show that Jordan Neely provoked him. Or the actor was the initial aggressor. And I don't think they're going to be able to show that here. Or the physical force involved is the product of a combat by agreement, not specifically authorized by law. I don't believe that is the case either. Number 2, a person may not use deadly physical force upon another person under circumstances specified in subdivision 1 unless, now look, there's also going to be a question about whether or not this is deadly force. I mean, certainly a sleeper hold can be deadly, but it is not necessarily deadly. He didn't shoot him. He didn't stab him. So a person may not use deadly physical force upon another person under circumstances specified in subdivision 1 unless the actor reasonably believes that such other person is using or about to use deadly physical force. Even in such case, however, the actor may not use deadly physical force if he or she knows that with complete personal safety to oneself and others, he or she may avoid the necessity of so doing by retreating, except that the actor is under no duty to retreat if he or she is in his or her dwelling and not the initial aggressor. So we talked about that the other day with Mark Betterow, that if you're in your house and someone comes into your house, you have every right to use deadly force if they're robbing you. Or 2, a police officer or peace officer or a person assisting a police officer, and that doesn't apply here. Or B, he or she reasonably believes that such other person is committing or attempting to commit a kidnapping, forcible rape, forcible aggravated sexual abuse, a crime formerly defined in section 13050 by force or robbery, or he or she reasonably believes that such other person is committing or attempting to commit a burglary and the circumstances are such that the use of deadly physical force is authorized by subdivision 3 of section 3520. I mean, in my opinion, what he did was reasonable. I think based on the testimony of the witnesses alone, they were in fear for their lives. They thanked him afterwards. They're calling him a hero. And yet, Alvin Bragg insisted on prosecuting this case. There are lots of protesters outside, and some in support of Daniel Penny. They have some sort of GoFundMe for his defense costs. Not GoFundMe, because they won't allow you to raise defense costs like Give, Send, Go. That's raised over $3 million for his defense. Let's take a look at, I think there's a video that kind of wraps up the week by ABC News, but I have to sit through the ad first before I can show that to you. So I'll do that for you guys, because you guys are worth it. Hello, Gail Taylor. Please explain why certain trials are not televised and closed courts. Why does this happen? Doesn't seem fair. I'm in New York. This is New York. And New York just doesn't televise trials. They just don't. They don't allow cameras in. Federal courts never do, but New York, it's just been just the way it's always been. There's always applications made or motions made by all the usual news outlets to televise it. They're never granted, but sometimes they will show like the sentencing part of a trial. Like somebody pointed out to me the other day that Tommy Valva case, they did televise, I think, the sentencing, but not the actual trial. I guess they find it too intrusive to the witnesses, to the entire court process. And it's New York. I don't know. It's frustrating. I know, I agree. Letter Rose by Better. Thanks for hanging in with me for 10 months. And Mystique for hanging in for a whole year. Mystique is an OG. Hi, Mystique. And Sarah and Shwakanhara for being here for 4 months. Thanks for covering this trial. Thank you for watching. I'm verklempt. I'm shocked that there's just not more interest in this. Look, we only have 700, not only, but I mean, look, 776 of you are here on a Sunday afternoon to listen to this. And the reason that nobody's watching the replays is because it's just being shadow banned. I'm convinced it's just being shadow banned. They don't want us talking about this. I don't know. It's too politically charged or something. Maybe. This is a disgrace, in my opinion, that this Marine is facing up to 19 years in prison for saving so many lives. Who knows what could have happened had he not stepped in. This is a huge case. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Cat artist in California. Thanks, Kirsten. They stopped camera coverage, calling it a media circus. Yeah, and now there's just a circus of people protesting outside. The Deb V. Heard case. Deb V. Heard was in Virginia, though. It wasn't in California. Right? So Virginia's different. A lot of cases that we watch, yeah, the Patriots are on, I know, but a lot of people are not. And, a lot of my Karen Reed people might not be interested in this case anyway. I know. I had a choice of going on. The Giants game was at 9:30 this morning. What was that about? And the Jets are playing at 4. So, maybe they'll come back and watch the replay. Or maybe they watch on one device and they watch the game on the other device. But no, it's the same thing the first time we did this, or the first 2 times. This is, I think, my 3rd video on this case. And it's just, there's not a lot of public interest. I just think people just don't know about it. And I think more people need to know about it. So kind of like, please share it. All right, here's ABC's coverage of, I think this was the wrap up of the week.
Jury in the subway chokehold trial heard a very different side to what happened on an Uptown F train last year that ended with the death of Jordan Neely. Witnesses testified that they were scared for their lives and thanked Daniel Penny for intervening. The former Marine is charged with manslaughter after putting Neely in a chokehold on a crowded train. Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles has been covering the trial all week. She's live in Lower Manhattan this afternoon with the very latest. Darla.
Liz, this case is no less polarizing than when it happened back in May of 2023. Depending on which witness you ask, from dozens who were on the train from different walks of life, different age groups, different racial makeups, they'll tell you a different answer on who was the bigger threat, Daniel Penny or Jordan Neely. During the first full week of the Daniel Penny trial, Jurors viewing multiple recordings of the same difficult scene. Jordan Neely laying unresponsive on the floor of the subway car. The people who saw it play out taking the stand this week.
I heard the young man that's on the floor saying, hey, I'm willing to die, I'll do anything. I'm willing to die. I'll go to jail. I don't care. I don't care.
Alethea Giddings, seen in body cam, testifying that she thanked Daniel Penny and that he asked her to tell that to officers at the precinct. Giddings telling him, "Of course I will."
The guy in the tan did take him down very respectfully and just held him down. He wasn't doing anything. He was okay.
Two witnesses on the stand Friday morning, leaving the scene, only coming forward after learning Neely had died. A mother on the train with her 5-year-old told the court that Neely was very erratic and unpredictable, saying, "My son started asking me questions. Why did he want to go to prison?" Also testifying, "I actually took the stroller that I had and put it in front of my son to create a barrier."
I'm not reading. I'm dead.
Witnesses this week include 2 high school students, the train conductor, and a strap hanger who testified he tried to pour water on Neely, but Penny stopped him from doing so. Prosecutors are trying to prove that Neely's outburst lasted only 30 seconds on the train, but Penny maintained the chokehold for 5 minutes and 53 seconds, well after other passengers had left the train.
But I definitely believe in justice for my nephew, and I think that will occur.
We got to see what this case was all about, and we got to see what the riders on that subway train that were trapped in that underground subway car with Jordan Neely were experiencing.
Now, the trial will resume on Tuesday, taking a break for the Veterans Day holiday on Monday. Reporting live in Lower Manhattan, Darla Miles, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Darla,
So that was eyewitness news coverage. Somebody said, what happened to the other 2 people who were holding him down? They were not charged. They were not charged. Cause of death is also going to be a big thing here. This and Bernie Gatz. Any other and big New York City MTA cases? Yeah, I got one for you. Except this guy wasn't charged. So let's take a look at this. His name is Jordan Williams. Jordan Williams' charges were dismissed the same day that Daniel Penny was indicted. It's an NBC News story. It says charges dropped against a New York City man in fatal subway stabbing. The grand jury declined to indict Jordan Williams on manslaughter and weapons charges in connection with the incident this month on a Brooklyn train. So this is a Brooklyn, it's a different DA. And his charges were dropped. So let's take a look at this story. A lot of people have pointed this out to me, and I think it's a good comparison. Except the fact pattern is different. So Jordan Williams is 20 years old. Here he is. He was accused of fatally stabbing another New York City subway rider. He will avoid prosecution, city officials said Wednesday. This was from June 29th of 2023. Grand jury declined to indict Williams on manslaughter and weapons charges in connections with the deadly stabbing of DeVictor, I don't know how to pronounce that, Wadrago, 36, on a Brooklyn J train on June 13th. Wadrago was alleged to have punched Williams' girlfriend and harassed other passengers. Our office conducted an impartial and thorough investigation of this tragic case, which included reviews of multiple videos and interviews with all available witnesses, and that evidence was fairly presented to a grand jury, the Brooklyn DA's office said in a statement. Today, the charges against Jordan Williams have been dismissed. Williams' attorney, Jason Goldman, said that his client acted in self-defense. The grand jury appeared to agree. Under New York law, a person is justified in using deadly physical force when they reasonably believe it is necessary to use such force to defend themselves or others from imminent use of deadly or unlawful physical force, the DA's office said in its statement. Addressing the grand jury's decision Wednesday, Williams said he had been scared in that situation NBC New York reported. I'm happy that I can get on with my life the way I'd like to, he said. The deadly altercation unfolded just after 8 p.m. June 13th on a northbound J train as it approached Marcy Avenue and Broadway, New York police said. Ouedraogo was taken to the New York Presbyterian Brooklyn Methodist Hospital with a stab wound to his chest. He was later pronounced dead, police said. Law enforcement sources told NBC News that Ouedraogo had allegedly been harassing people on the train and acting belligerently and erratically. A police official told the station that one of the people he harassed was Williams' girlfriend. A source told NBC that Ouedraogo had punched her. It was not clear what exactly happened in the lead up to the stabbing. And then it draws comparisons to the Jordan Neely Daniel Penny case, which is distinguished because Jordan Neely did not throw any punches or lay hands on anyone. Daniel Penny also did not testify at the grand jury, whereas this gentleman did. But it says early on, the incident drew comparisons to the altercation resulting in the death of Jordan Neely, age 30, a former Michael Jackson impersonator who died last month after a Marine veteran allegedly put him in a chokehold on a New York City subway train. The day Williams' charges were dropped, the suspect in Neely's death, Daniel Penny, 24, pleaded not guilty to second-degree manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide. Neely was alleged to have been shouting and begging for money when Penny pinned him to the floor of the moving subway car with the help of 2 other passengers on May 1st and held him in a chokehold for more than 3 minutes. Neely lost consciousness and was pronounced dead at a hospital. Let's take a look at some of the video from this interview with the defendant and attorney whose charges were dropped.
And I'm just happy that, the system turned out to work in my favor.
A chaotic chapter in the life of 20-year-old Jordan Williams from St. Albans, Queens is now over. Williams was arrested and charged with manslaughter for stabbing 36-year-old Victor Ouedraogo to death on a J train in Brooklyn 2 weeks ago. From the beginning, Williams said he acted in self-defense.
I was scared in that situation.
A grand jury believed Williams and refused to indict him.
I'm happy that I can get on with my life the way I'd like to.
Law enforcement sources tell News 4 that on the night of the deadly stabbing, Ouedraogo was harassing strap hangers, acting erratic, and punched Williams' girlfriend, Yasmin Ratliff.
Everyone was there. They seen that he defended me. I was defending him, and that's it.
The Brooklyn DA's office says our office conducted an impartial and thorough investigation of this tragic case, which included review of multiple videos and interviews with all available witnesses, and that evidence was fairly presented to a grand jury. Today, the charges against Jordan Williams have been dismissed.
Justice has been served.
When asked if he feels like authorities moved too quickly to arrest and charge him, this was his response.
I do feel it was a little fast, but it's behind me now, so I'm not going to dwell on it.
Williams says he's now focused on his future, restarting college and getting a job. The money raised by strangers, over $100,000 for his defense fund, will now go to his college fund.
I was scared in that situation, and I didn't think a lot of people would support me, so I'm definitely grateful for it.
Remember this?
Of the incident on his subway train. Let me just find that for you, because it's an interesting contrast. Give me a sec. Let me see if this is the right one that has the actual video of the incident. No, hang on. Was it on Twitter? Hold on. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. Or we'll just let this, I'm going to let this news piece play while I try and find the actual video of the incident.
Jordan Williams, that's the man who had been charged with fatally stabbing a fellow passenger on a J train earlier. Brought against Jordan Williams, that's the man who had been charged with fatally stabbing a fellow passenger on a J train earlier this month.
Now, Brooklyn grand jury declined to indict, determining he acted in self-defense. Fox 5's Briella Tomasetti joins us now with the very latest. Good morning, Briella.
Yeah, Dan and Tashani, bottom line, Jordan Williams has said this is a decision he will regret every single day for the rest of his life. Jason Goldman, who represents Williams, said it's never a joyous occasion when a life is lost, but Jordan and his loved ones are grateful and relieved that the grand jury saw this for exactly what it was.
Honestly, I was afraid.
1 week after Jordan Williams and his lawyer, Jason Goldman, spoke with us exclusively on Good Day New York, a grand jury has dropped all charges against him. Williams, just 20 years old, was accused of fatally stabbing a homeless man on a J train earlier this month and subsequently charged with manslaughter. Williams testified before the grand jury for about 45 minutes, saying that he acted in self-defense after the victim, DeVictor Udrago, punched his girlfriend in the face. Video filmed by another passenger and shown to the grand jury reportedly corroborated that.
All I wanted to do was just get me and my girlfriend off the train safely.
The Brooklyn DA's office released this statement, reading in part that its investigation, quote, included review of multiple videos and interviews with all available witnesses, and that evidence was fairly presented to a grand jury. The dismissal of the charges against Jordan Williams came hours after Daniel Penny faced a judge in Lower Manhattan. The 24-year-old Marine veteran was formally arraigned in connection with the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on an F train last month. He pleaded not guilty to charges of criminally negligent homicide and second-degree manslaughter after being indicted by a grand jury. Penny's lawyer maintains that their client acted to protect himself and others after Neely began threatening and harassing passengers.
Daniel Penny entered a plea of not guilty with great confidence that a jury of his peers will ultimately agree by rendering a verdict of not guilty on all counts after trial.
And all the evidence that we've seen so far and all the evidence we expect to see shows that that Danny acted reasonably under very difficult circumstances.
Neely, a former Michael Jackson impersonator who was homeless at the time of the fatal encounter and who also had a history of mental illness, was unarmed when pinned to the ground and placed in a chokehold. Attorneys for the Neely family have questioned that if Penny's goal was to subdue Jordan, then why keep him in that chokehold for 3 minutes?
Daniel Penny killed the man.
Here's the thing. There's no evidence that he was applying pressure for the entire 3 minutes. They can't prove that. How are they going to prove that? Applying pressure to the neck and restraining someone are two different things.
He took a life, even a legal defense fund, even interviews that took place weeks before this happened. Can't make justice look the other way.
Okay, and there are obviously some similarities and differences between the two cases. Both Penny and Williams claim self-defense. Williams testified before the grand jury and Penny did not. If convicted on both counts, Penny faces up to 19 years in prison. He'll remain out on bond and is due back in court on October 25th. Dana Tashani, back to you.
Okay, Briella, thank you very much.
Okay, I found the video. Of course, it was in the New York Post because, of course, it was in the New York Post. All right. And here it is, trigger warning. This is from the other case. The Jordan Williams case, which coincidentally, his name is Jordan, and the victim in the other case is Jordan Neely. 2 Jordans. Okay, here we go.
Tired of losing money on
What say you? Kimmy G says he'd be alive if he didn't hop on the train and immediately start threatening people. Yeah. What responsibility does he bear for this? Black Young Economist says that's not enough, though. People saying they felt scared. It absolutely is enough. It is about whether or not the other people on the train were in fear for their lives and whether that self-defense on the part of Daniel Penny was justified. So it absolutely is. I mean, that's exactly what the jury is going to do. The jury is the finder of fact, and it is up to the jury to decide whether or not they felt threatened. You shouldn't have to wait for someone to attack you with a knife before you feel threatened. You shouldn't have to wait for somebody to punch a woman, sucker punch a woman in the head, which was another thing that was going on the streets of Manhattan, before you're allowed to defend yourself. The threat of imminent harm is enough. And when I submit to you that when an unhinged guy under the effects of K2 or spice or synthetic marijuana or whatever you want to call it, with a history of mental illness, lunges onto a subway train with soiled sweatpants, clearly deranged, something's going on, says he doesn't care if he dies and threatens to kill people, that is enough to subdue him, to restrain him. You're in between stations in a tuna can, somebody said, in a subway car with nowhere to go. And there's people on the train with children and strollers. And I, for one, would be pretty damn glad that Daniel Penny was on my train. He didn't pull out a gun and shoot him. He didn't pull out a knife and stab him. He tried to restrain him until they could get to the next stop when first responders could get there. And by the way, when the first responders got there and they found a pulse on him, he was still alive, and they administered Narcan to him, because you don't give Narcan to a dead person. He wasn't pronounced until later at the hospital. I would submit to you that chokehold did not cause his death. Something else did. Something else that was already in his system, or another pre-existing condition that he already had. But this case in and of itself is going to have a real chilling effect on people that are willing to step in when a woman is being beaten or threatened on a subway car, or anyone is being threatened. Because they're going to stop and think, oh, wait a second, that guy, Daniel Penny, yeah, he was on trial for manslaughter. He didn't even have a weapon. All he did was try and subdue them until they got to the next subway stop so that the first responders could get on the train. And by the way, by the time they got there, it took 7 minutes for life-saving measures to happen. So I think the guy's a hero. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it for now, unless I hear something else. I think this is a shanda that this is being prosecuted the way it is. Better Rose Drapes, thanks for the 25. Thank you for covering this. People do need to know. Jets fan here. Oh, good. So your game's not until 4:25. Let's go, Jets. Thank you for also helping me pass the time until then. Good. Thank you. And Scott, my amazing moderator who spent 25 years New York City Transit as a police officer, says he didn't have to touch anyone to be restrained. He committed the misdemeanor of menacing. That's enough. It is. It's enough. I agree with you, Scott. Emma said a chokehold that long will kill. He had two people helping and could have just held him down without killing him. He did hold him down. He did. He held him down. He was alive when they got there. He didn't kill him. He was alive. That's what I think people don't understand. There's no way for us to prove that he had consistent pressure on his carotid the entire time. He could have had his arm around him to restrain him after the initial passing out. And then there was some more time because we watched the video where he was struggling after that. So that's going to be a question of fact for the jury too, in my opinion. And then Kate said, physical force versus deadly force is an extremely fine line to maneuver. What is physical force on one person can easily equal deadly force on another person. It's a gray area. Fear can also impact it, right? And also the condition of the person who's being restrained, right? And if he's got all these drugs in his system, and God knows what he's on, God knows what his medical condition is. If you push someone out of your way as you're going down the sidewalk, and just like, trying to get through a sidewalk, and you push someone out of the way and that person has a heart attack because they have a pre-existing medical condition of a heart attack, of cardiovascular widowmaker type condition, are you going to be charged with manslaughter for that? No. So yeah, 100% I agree with you. Charlie Lynn, does Penny have a defense fund? I'm late. So yes, he does have a defense fund. It's raised almost $3 million, I believe, or a little in excess of $3 million. And here's also something that I found very interesting is that this guy, Jordan Williams, wants to see Daniel Penny convicted, which I thought was very interesting. He said, here, let's pull this up. So they raised something in excess of $100,000 for his defense, which they said they didn't use. So they were going to, he was going to use it for his college education. But here's another story from the Post, which just dropped. Well, this was from June 1st. And it says in true New York Post fashion, there's no solidarity among subway vigilantes. Jordan Williams, a former FedEx worker who made national headlines after killing a man who attacked his girlfriend in a brawl on a Brooklyn J train, says he feels no empathy for fellow subway killer Daniel Penny, a former U.S. Marine, and hopes that he's convicted. He's a former Marine or whatever. That's cool. You serve the country, but just because you serve the country doesn't mean you get to come back into the country and attack random people in the country for no reason. Williams, 21, told the Post by phone this week from his home in Hollis, Queens. Williams faced manslaughter charges after killing DeVictor Wadrago on June 13, 2023. But unlike Penny, the charges were dropped when there was video of the brawl showing apparently the grand jury was decisive. And then he says, or it says in here that Jordan Neely had a long history of mental illness and had been arrested dozens of times before. Williams said the two cases are completely different. Jordan Neely, he didn't touch anybody, you know what I mean? He didn't do anything as far as reported. Penny attacked a man for no reason, but got people sitting over there wanting him to get released. Williams said racism and discrimination had impacted his case and noted that a GoFundMe set up for Penny raised millions of dollars, while a fundraiser launched on his behalf had raised only about $120,000. Nearly a year after Williams left the public eye, his brush with the law still follows him. While he's living happily with his girlfriend and has welcomed a new son, also named Jordan, Williams has struggled to find work. A $15,000 settlement from FedEx is long gone, and Williams, who now avoids riding the subway, says he's been surviving off of donations. That was a screenshot from his video. I want to get a job and I want to provide for my family. I'm not being picky, especially when I haven't had a job in almost a year now. I'm willing to do any hours, go anywhere, anytime. It sounds like he's mad that his GoFundMe did not make as much of as Daniel Penny's. I just want to see if it says here in another opinion piece that Neely had dozens of arrests and multiple emotionally disturbed person reports to his name, and his family had tried to get him into treatment. A warrant was out for his arrest at the time of this incident for assaulting a 67-year-old woman at the time of his death. He was menacing to strangers in that subway car, which is exactly what our amazing moderator, Scott, 25 years on the job as New York City Transit, said. Menacing is enough. It seems that that's exactly what happened. A mob of activists and elected officials are trying to bully Alvin Bragg into filing it. And they did. And here we are, after 4 days of testimony, the trial of Marine Daniel Penny. And this opinion piece says, nope, the left wants to focus exclusively on scapegoating the vigilante rather than the system that failed Neely. Innocent New Yorkers shouldn't fear random attacks, including getting shoved onto subway tracks or trapped in a car with a madman. And that is someone's opinion from the New York Post. What say you? That's a great question, Rainy Day. I was actually in court. She says, or he, how long does it take to do one of those courtroom sketches? The courtroom sketch artist for this trial is a woman named Jane Rosenberg, who I met when I was in court for the Long Island serial killer case for Rex Sherman one day. And she's so amazing. We were standing in line together. And she's a very famous sketch artist, and she's been sketching for something like, I don't know, between 40 and 50 years. She sketched like every famous person ever. And she's amazing. I don't know how long it takes to do one, but it was so interesting to meet and talk to her. But yeah, she's amazing. It's a dying art because most courtrooms do allow cameras nowadays, except for this one. Maya says, hello, let's talk about that how dangerous the dangerous K2 he was on. Do we know that it didn't have an effect on him? No. My argument is that it absolutely did. It made him unhinged. I don't know a lot about it. I don't want to Google it. I mean, my Google searches alone are already going to get me arrested and thrown in jail if anybody ever gets a load of my Google search history, because of all the cases that I cover and all of the things that I Google on a daily basis. But it's also known as spice. It's also known as synthetic cannabinoids. And it's also incredibly, it can dangerous, can cause people to behave erratically. Who knows what was in it? Who knows if there was fentanyl in it? There was a woman in California, and I forget her name, but she got off with a defense of marijuana-induced psychosis. She was out on a date with some guy. She smoked one bong hit of something that the guy gave her, and she went psychotic and stabbed this man over 100 times, and she was acquitted or not even charged. Do you guys remember that case? I forget what her name was, but it was in California. Mungata says you never know what you're getting in there. K2 synthetic or whatever. Yep. Thank you, Jean Marie, RN, for becoming a new member. Thoughts, concerns, questions. Would it not mix well with what the first responders gave him? Yeah, I don't know that Narcan would have an effect. That's a great question on K2. I don't know. That's a good point. Right, little green penny wouldn't have been charged if Neely hadn't died. That is correct. But was it the cause of death, or was it something else? And not only, even if it was the cause of death, was he justified in using force in that situation based on the testimony of all the other witnesses, which is all that we have? Because we don't have any video evidence of the way Neely was behaving when he got on that train, but we did have several witnesses testify that they thought they were going to die and that they've been riding the subway for 50 years and they never thought in 50 years this was the first time they ever felt in fear for their lives. Wade Wilson was on K2 when he murdered 2 women in Florida. Really, Cape Cod? I haven't followed that case, but you guys know a lot more about a lot of these cases than I do. No good Samaritan laws here, but like just this self-defense. Self-defense. And in your own home, you don't have a duty to retreat in New York. Tell me if you think this is going to have a chilling effect on people wanting to step in to help strangers. Thank you, Sherry D, for gifting 5 memberships. And for those of you randomly gifted by YouTube. And thank you, Charlie Lynn, for the 10 and for telling us that spice is dangerous and unregulated. It also often causes delirium, psychosis, confusion, rapid heart rate, organ failure, brain swelling, etc. Thank you, Charlie, for being either knowing that information or for being brave enough to actually Google it. Thank you, Justin Green, for the Cash App starting off before we even started live today. Wishing the best for Daniel Penny, he says. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate you. Melanie Parker says self-defense and defense of others. Good question. Linda Lane says Penny took him down to keep people safe and himself safe. Right. He had a pause when the police got there. He was still alive. This should have never came to this in the first place. My opinion. Right. Could they have saved him? The police sergeant got right on the stand and said, listen, this guy was obviously dirty. He was obviously homeless. He was obviously a drug addict. There was no way that I was going to let any of my people do mouth to mouth on him and catch something like hepatitis. That's what he said. Packet Man, there was a couple from Europe who did have video of Neely's antics. The couple now back home have refused to testify. That's interesting. Right. And Scott says what you have to understand is that being in a train car isn't the same as being on the street. People feel trapped. Yeah. It's an underground hellhole. Sometimes it can be. Rachel says, I believe that Narcan only blocks opioid receptors, so it wouldn't have any effect. People says, absolutely, it will. Kimberly Gutierrez says, absolutely, it will prevent people from wanting to step in. Kate says, I think it will. This and Delphi. Yep. Look at what happened with Richard Allen in Delphi. The 2 girls were killed in a location. That was a place where many people went hiking, the Monon High Bridge, and law enforcement came out and said, anyone who was there that day, please come and talk to us. We want to know what you saw. If you saw or heard or can give us any information about what you saw or people that you saw there. Richard Allen went in willingly, gave, his statement about what he saw. And he saw 3 girls, 2 who looked like they were younger and 1 who looked like she was older and babysitting the 2 girls. And that was pretty much all he said, except he said he was wearing a black jacket, Carhartt jacket, which apparently, according to even one of the victim's own sisters, is the same exact outfit that everybody wears in Indiana. Like Kelsey said that every person in Indiana wears the same clothes that bridge guy was wearing. The tip was thrown into a box, or his interview was thrown into a box. And almost 6 years later, he finds himself in prison, pre-trial, in the hellhole of solitary confinement, being tortured for 13 months and becomes psychotic, confesses 60 times, and now he's on trial for his life just because he came forward and said, yeah, I was there. What do you want to know? How many people are going to do that nowadays? Rainy Day says Narcan barely has an effect on heroin these days. I gave 6 doses to one guy while waiting for paramedics. He got 4 more doses from them before he had a respiratory rate of more than 6. Wow. Yeah. Iceman's like, yeah, I'm sure it already does have that effect. Everyone it's just mind your business. Nothing to see here. Look the other way. Oh, goddess, it's definitely the reason why people don't want to step in to help. But a man is not going to sit there and let this type of stuff go on. You're right. You're right. And Daniel Penny didn't. He was 24 years old at the time, by the way. He's a baby. I have kids older than Daniel Penny. And if one of my kids who's younger than that was on that subway train, we should all be bowing down to this man, in my opinion. That was her name, Bryn Spetcher. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Nikki. BRYNSPJCHER was the lady who was not held accountable for the stabbing of her date due to marijuana psychosis. I mean, we're here. I mean, I have to fall into this rabbit hole. SPJ. It comes right up. I mean, people think when I bring up this story, they're like, you're making that up. I'm like, no, I'm really not making up. It's really true here. I'll even bring it to you from a mainstream media reliable source. Because now I want to know exactly what it was that she was on. A California woman who fatally stabbed boyfriend over 100 times avoids prison. This was January of 2024. A California woman who fatally stabbed her boyfriend more than 100 times during what prosecutors called a cannabis-induced psychosis has been spared prison time, a judge ruled on Tuesday. The decision drew sobs of relief from the woman and a rebuke from the victim's father. Bryn Spetcher, 32, was sentenced Tuesday to 2 years of probation, according to Ventura County Superior Court records. Last month, she was convicted in the 2018 fatal stabbing of Chad O'Melia, a man whom she had been dating for several weeks. Testimony showed she stabbed O'Melia more than 100 times and also stabbed herself, according to the Ventura County Star. After the sentence was handed down by Ventura County Superior Court. So this was after she was convicted. She was convicted, and then he just sentenced her to 2 years probation. It wasn't like the charges were dismissed. After the sentence was handed down by Ventura County Superior Court Judge David Worley on Tuesday, Spetcher and her family cried tears of relief, the Ventura County Star reported, while the victim's father said the sentencing set a dangerous precedent. He just gave everyone in the state of California who smokes marijuana a license to kill someone, Sean O'Melia said, according to the outlet. The sentence was handed down nearly 4 years after Spetcher went to O'Melia's apartment in Thousand Oaks, where they took multiple hits from a bong loaded with marijuana, the Ventura County District Attorney's Office said in a statement last month. Spetcher had an adverse reaction to the marijuana and suffered from what experts call cannabis-induced psychotic disorder. According to the statement, during that psychotic episode, Spetcher stabbed Mr. O'Melia multiple times, killing him. Police officers who responded to the apartment found O'Melia laying in a pool of blood with Spetcher screaming hysterically with a knife still in her hands. Before the officers could disarm her, Spetcher plunged the weapon, a long serrated bread knife, into her own neck, the DA said in a statement. Officers used a taser and made multiple baton blows before they were finally able to disarm and subdue her. O'Melia was pronounced dead at the scene by paramedics. Spetcher was ultimately convicted by a jury of involuntary manslaughter. The Ventura County Star reported that the day before Tuesday's hearing, family and friends of O'Melia marched in front of the county government center carrying signs that said 108 stab wounds is a serious crime and Judge Worley do the right thing. Spetcher's lawyer, Bob Schwartz, said he was pleased with the ruling. Of course he was. Everyone go hire Bob Schwartz. Judge Worley did the right and courageous thing, he said. So there's that. I guess if you're going to commit a murder, do it in Ventura County, California. Shonda says, I know about this case, but wasn't aware the case wasn't being covered online. Court TV or a long crime. I'm a wife of a Marine, Semper Fi. Daniel was protecting those around him. Agreed. She even stabbed her dog, Nicky Mick. Oh my God. Somebody lives in Ventura County. Wait, hold on. Is that where you live in Ventura County, Jody, or California? It's ridiculous. We had to vote to prosecute thieves who steal less than $950. Shari, child of the 70s and 80s in New York City. The sight of red berets, aka the guardian angels, always made me feel safe while riding the trains, right? Yep. Thank you for the $5.43 super chat. I love it. Yeah, that's right. The unwanted aggressive windshield cleaners created a few street fights. Wow, I don't see those guys so much anymore. Hey, Cass. Used to be in New York City when you would come to a stop at a light, sometimes going in and out of the city, these guys would come over and just start squirting your windshield with Windex and wiping your windshield, looking for tips. And if you didn't tip them, they could have, they did cause some street fights back in the day. I don't see those guys so much anymore. Carmen says, I'd wonder if Carly Gregg had inhaled synthetic marijuana and that it may have been a contributing factor. Synthetic marijuana is dangerous, not anything like weed. I've had lots of patients in the hospital for it. Yes, I did. I did bring it up during that trial. Did we ever get full toxicology for Carly Gregg? Could that have been K2? I was wondering that too. Jadzia says, good grief. Ventura County is not safe. Iceman, did the Emmys report back the state's case that the chokehold is cause of death? I haven't seen it yet. So the medical examiner will be testifying in the upcoming days. I'm going to try and get there one day this week. They're off tomorrow for Veterans Day. Thank you, everyone, for your service. And we'll be back in session on Tuesday. After the Karen Reed case, I'm skeptical of coroner's reports, i.e. hospitals at fault. Thank you, Glenda, for your $10 super sticker. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, Cape Cod, so much for your deuce. And keep your receipt for your alibi. Water in the lungs. Thanks for the deuce. On Daniel Penny, on Jordan Neely, I don't know. From the guy pouring water. That's a good point. I don't know. I can't wait. Maybe if I could find out when the medical examiner is going to testify, that would be the day to go. Charlie Lynn, thanks for the 5. I worked in a Texas prison hospital and have seen countless inmates pass away from spice alone. At least 5 inmates a month were hospitalized from it. How are they getting spice into the prison? I guess I shouldn't ask. You can get anything you want in prison, right? If you're connected enough. That's crazy. Shari with the red berets. Glenda, thank you for the super sticker. They do that in Boston too. I don't know. Oh, the windshield wiper guys? Oh, you just watched me on Hulu? Everyone's impressed. Thank you. Hey, girls. I was on Hulu, apparently, in the Delphi. I don't know if it's a documentary. It's a documentary. It's about a 35-minute piece. I think it's called Impact on Hulu. And there's a shot of some YouTube creators that are covering the Delphi case, and I'm in there. There was also an ABC piece on it. I didn't even know it until one of my amazing viewers pointed it out to me because Hulu didn't ask me, but I'll take it. Debbie says, spice is nothing to play with. Makes folks crazy. Hey, Krupp says, Massachusetts prisons has huge problems with K2. Susie Q. He was completely unhinged. Jordan was. You have no idea what he was going to do. I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know what we're doing here. I just don't. Kimberly G. NYC jumpsuit Pablo said you can get anything in prison. I think so. They even apparently, we learned during the Sarah Boone trial that they make hooch out of toilet water. Something having to do with putting fruit in the toilet water, that you can let it ferment for long enough and you can make hooch or booze or something that'll get you drunk. E. Mary Jane says all of the money wasted on this trial should have been put towards safety and security on the subway. Oh, Scott says there's a video on YouTube of about 30 people freaking out from spice and K2 in Bushwick. I don't even want to Google that. I don't even want to see it. Is this like the zombie drug? the drug that makes people look like zombies. Like you go to towns where people are on it and they're all wandering around like zombies. I got to tell you that I was in Manchester, New Hampshire once, like around the time of like shortly after the lockdowns. And was it Manchester? And the way that people were walking around that city, it was like zombie lands. It was kind of scary. Was an autopsy done? Yeah. So we're going to hear from the medical examiner on that. Cause of death. Greg says dealers are lacing everything with fentanyl because of its addictive properties, availability, and cheap. R.I.P. son. From your son passed away from smoking a blunt that he didn't know what was in there. I'm so sorry for your loss. I hope that they find that dealer and prosecute him or her. Yeah, even like it can kill. It's deadly. I mean, you just can't smoke anything anymore. Just don't. Just don't. Drugs are bad. I tell my kids, drugs are bad. One puff of something that you don't know what it is that somebody hands you could kill you. Hello, James. Running late. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. I'm glad I didn't interfere with any of your football games, unless I did. If you were watching the Patriots, I did. I apologize. But, yeah, look at me. Movie star lawyer. Thanks, Cape God. Nikki says prison is more lawless than open society. Yep. Is that what they do, Emma? That's how they do it? They put the bag of fruit in the toilet in jail to make the Heine wine, says not that Susan. Oh my God. Kiki Kazoo says, see something, say something, right? Well, if you felt a threat, I know I'd be grateful if someone stepped up, as would I. 100% I would. All right, you guys, I think that's a wrap on this one, unless you guys have any further thoughts, comments, concerns. Why was Jordan Williams' case dropped then? I think both should be. Jordan Williams was in Brooklyn. Different DA. Grand jury didn't indict him. I agree. Look, I totally agree with you. This is a completely political move to prosecute Deion Penny, in my opinion. This is an Alvin Bragg thing. Trank is the zombie drug. Okay, thank you. Manchester, New Hampshire. Yep. Manchester, New Hampshire. That's what I meant. Not Manchester, New England. I thought I said Manchester, New Hampshire. Trank. Thanks, Iceman, for tuning in today, for joining us. I think there's videos on that too, right? Did anybody watch that new movie that's out right now? That's apparently really, really creepy, called it's called Substance, I think, with Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. I heard it is, it will freak the crap out of you. Anybody see it yet? The Substance? Did you watch it, Cass? Because it's so funny. I was going to ask you if you watched it. Did you watch it? Because I heard it's really good. And if you did watch it, should I watch it? Anyone? Shane's prioritizing. I'm first. Pats are up 13-3. Nice. See, look, they're going to win or lose whether you watch me or not. So, you could have me on one device and you can have them on another device. And Cass says yes. But you also love Margaret Qualley. I do too. And I also love Demi Moore. So, but I heard it's like, don't eat during this movie is what I heard. Yeah. Maya says there's videos on YouTube of them making the booze in jail, yet you can't use curse words, right? Everyone pray for Daniel Penny, please. I had highlighted another message here, but now I don't know where it is. Someone said they were suffering from something and I wanted us to pray for her, but now I can't find the message. Pray for Daniel Penny. Professional juror says, how does one get on a grand jury? I'm available. Well, the interesting thing has anyone ever sat on a grand jury? Because grand jurors, depending on where you are, serve on a grand jury for months and they hear many, many different cases. And sometimes they just go in for like one day a week for like several months. But I think it would be fascinating. Oh, yes. Perfect timing. All right, everyone. Here's what's going to happen. Kate, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I wouldn't be mad if they made a reality show of Sarah Boone in prison. Please pass the peppers. There's a lot of people are recommending that movie. Here's what's going to happen. It's on, I think you have to sign up for some free trial to something called like movie or something, and you can get it for free for a free 7-day trial. Just search it on your Fire Stick or whatever you use. Crazy Body Horror movie is what it's about. Cass, our in-house movie expert, who knows all things entertainment, is here for it. And pray for Richard Allen. I'm going to teleport you over to Grizzly True Crime so that you can watch Andrea Burkhart talk about what went on this week in Delphi and where they stand with the jury and what's happening. And they're coming back tomorrow to deliberate. So I'm going to teleport you over there. Thanks to the moderators for keeping it classy today. Love you guys. I love each and every one of you for tuning in to spend part of your day with me, as always, every single day. Do the YouTube courtesy type stuff. Subscribe, like, comment nicely, and hit notifications and make sure you have all notifications set, because I know I'm going to be here tomorrow with you doing something. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Maybe we'll go over the Menendez resentencing petition. How about that? That sounds like a great stream for tomorrow. Wednesday, we have Karen Reed's motions hearing to cover. And then Tuesday maybe could be the day that I go to Daniel Penny's trial. So I think that sounds like a great plan. So everyone, hang on. I'm going to teleport you over to Grizzly. Tell them that we said hi, Cupcake Invasion. And once again, happy 249th birthday to our United States Marines. My father is a Marine. Semper Fi. If you know, you know. As I always say to close out every stream, stay cool, stay kind, stay classy, my friends. It is not hard. I promise you, it is so not hard. Cupcake Invasion at Grizzly True Crime. Ready, set, go. Peace.